What's going on, guys? So here it is, the new daily rider, you could call it, I guess. I traded in my 2015 Harley Dyna Street Bob and got me a 2021 Kawasaki zH2. This is the stand-up line of the H2 line here. It's got the same engine I'm convinced as the SX. It's detuned from the H2. Definitely does not have power like the H2, but I'm sure once it's flashed, it's going to be super fun. Let's see how she rides. So this new model H2 has the same ECU as the new ZX10, the 2021. Still a Mitsubishi ECU, but the features have changed and the plugs have changed on the ECU. So Woolwich is trying to develop a flash. I also heard that Bren Tuning is developing a flash. So we'll see. It's definitely going to be fun bike flashed. So it has 3 modes now. Road mode, which is like a less aggressive riding mode, I would say. The ATVs definitely don't open up as aggressively. And then you have sport mode, which is definitely a little more aggressive opening ETV and less wheelie control. And then there's also rider mode, which is traditional modes like the ZX10, where it had full, medium, and low power modes, and then 1, 2, and 3 traction control. You cannot turn the traction all the way off, however. It only goes down to 1 and no lower. I am curious what this bike would be like if it had a Stage 2 supercharger gear setup in it. Probably be a little bit too much to handle, though, honestly. I mean, sitting up on the sit-up style of chassis and having your weight up like this, when you accelerate, it's a wheelie machine. I mean, literal power wheelies. This did come factory with a up and down quick shifter, which is fairly nice from the factory, I must say. Not a real big fan of how it downshifts, but definitely some getting used to there. Definitely a little different than the Woolwich Auto Blip downshifting. Just adjusting my mirrors here. Give her a little bang here in first gear, if you will. Straight up power wheelies. Nothing but power wheelies with this thing. It just has a tremendous amount of grunt. Obviously, I mean, it's an H2 engine and it's supercharged, but you can really feel this bike come into boost, if you will. When you bring the RPM up and you bring it like past 4,500 RPM, you just feel the boost rolling. Obviously, it's RPM driven, it's chain driven, so the more RPM you make, the more boost it's making, but I do like that this model has cruise control. It is very, very nice, especially on a long trip if you don't want to hold the throttle open. Get a little second gear hit here. Oh, third gear wheelie, fourth gear wheelie, dude. Woo, this thing is fun. This bike is so fun to ride. I would say for an everyday commuter, if you want a bike that has definitely some more grunt than the other 3 hyper naked models, I guess you could call them. You know, the Super Duke or the Hyper Motard. This is definitely an awesome bike. And the throttle is so much more smooth than the Ninja H2. Dude, that throttle is so choppy. It's twitchy and touchy. You give it a little bit of input and it's like, you know, it wants to just take off. And this bike, however, is drive-by-wire now, and the throttle, they got it figured out for sure. For sure. It'll be interesting to stack this up against, you know, an H2SX once you can get a flash done on this thing. I mean, I'm in 6th gear. If I roll on, it's just party time. This thing is so fun. So fun. And very, very, very affordable, I would say. Honestly, for a supercharged line, $17,500. How can you know what I mean? That's only, the new bikes are 16 or 15 or 16,000 new all motor 1000s. I mean, it's right in line there. I think with a flash, this is going to be, give a ZX10 or S1000 a run for his money for sure. Right now, I think out of the hole maybe it would keep up, but after 100 it's definitely not keeping up with a big leader bike that's flashed and de-restricted. This thing just is so fun to ride. And I'm not even in rider mode. If I turn the traction off, or down to 1, I mean, it'll really wheelie. When you're in the sport and road modes, it's still being controlled, wheelie controlled, by the ECU. I just like it in these modes because then you can see your engine temperature, the temperature outside. There's more information displayed on the screen when you're in the ECU controlled modes, I guess you would call it, versus controlling it manually through the buttons on the handlebar like you would a traditional ZX10 or a ZX6 or a bike like that. This thing handles too. The handling on this is just phenomenal. I'm very impressed with the handling. It's got a lean angle gauge, which is cool. I mean, like this, for example, this. If you took off on an H2 with this right now, you'd be like, what? It would just want to, like, snap you off the bike. The throttle modulation now, they got it totally figured out, this drive-by-wire. It is so smooth. I mean, even just rolling in, it's just smooth as can be with a motorcycle. I mean, I really didn't know what to expect with the electronic throttle, but it's just, they got it on point. Definitely takes some getting used to. It feels different. You know, you can tell it's not mechanical, but man. It also has day mode screen, night mode. You can make it white during the day, black at night, so it's not blinding you. You can also see other features like, you know, your boost temperature, just like the traditional Ninja H2 and the SX line. Your boost percentage, which as you go faster, it builds percentage, obviously. It's kind of like a boost gauge, sort of, but not. Coolant temperature, which I usually keep it on that, and boost temperature to monitor my my boost temps. And the quick shifter too. Riding around town in sport mode, you can definitely tell it's a little more aggressive shifting. But it is smooth from the factory for sure. It's almost seamless. The fuel economy, we'll talk about that right now. I definitely feel like it gets better fuel economy than a Ninja H2. So obviously I only have 150 miles on this thing, but my miles per gallon is 50 miles per gallon readout live right now, 39. So it's ranging from 39 to 50. The average is 31, which I would say for a boosted bike, that's not terrible at all. At all. I've been beating on it. I haven't been riding gently on it, that's for sure. I've been breaking it in how I'm going to ride it. Comfort-wise, the position, I would say this bike is very, very comfortable. Maybe even more comfortable than an H2SX. I only sat on one time, so I don't quite remember it well, but I haven't ridden one myself yet. But this thing is very comfortable. The seat could use a little more comfort. Now, I know they do sell a comfort seat for it. I don't know if that... They do have a zH2 SE. It's like the loaded line with electric suspension, and I didn't want all that. So maybe I have the lower model line. The seat doesn't come with a comfort seat, but the seat could use a little more... Not cushion, but like gel cushiony softness to it. It's a little hard, the seat. It's still comfortable, but for a long ride, not ideal. Now obviously the exhaust is very quiet and tame because, you know, US government standards and the emissions and etc. I do have a Van Diemen exhaust, full titanium exhaust on the way for it. So my plan is to just install the exhaust and put a Power Commander 5 on it for the time being until a flash for it is released. And then go from there. My plans are to just flash it, do the full exhaust, a Sprint air filter, and then that's it. And the intercooler, obviously, to keep it safe from Travis Yeager. Shout out to Yeager Works. I may pick up a set of Stage 2 gears just to try it, but I'll probably put it back stock after because I really don't see it being even rideable Stage 2. It's just going to wheelie 5th, 6th gear wheelies at 140 miles an hour. I mean, it's going to be way, way hard to tame and keep down. Definitely missed the chirpy chirp blow-off valve. I put a Extreme Creations atmospheric blow-off valve on my Ninja H2, and you definitely miss the chirpy chirp sometimes. I do like the way that bike sounds and the way it blows off, and it definitely helps performance. It lets all the hot boost out of the plenum and into the atmosphere instead of recircling it into the airbox like this one does, or a stock H2 does, Ninja H2. But that chirpy chirp is really, really a sound of its own, especially under hard load. It's even louder when you're on power, and I'm sure it's only going to get louder once I flash and tune and take the exhaust off that's on it. It's corking it up like a cork in a tailpipe. I will say the gearing on this bike is very, very, very on point for I would say around town cruising on the surface streets, and the highway feels pretty good too at 80 miles an hour. You know, just a constant throttle cruise. It feels pretty good. Like the gearing is what it needs to be for what you're doing with it. You know, it's not a race bike. Yes, it has a supercharged engine and it's very powerful, and it'll go 150, 160 miles an hour, but this bike is set up to be a commuting bike, or a bike you would tour on a little bit, or adventure tour on, and it's definitely, I would say, for those purposes, it's very, very, very well set up. The thing handles amazing. I mean, it'll just whip corners, whip in and out of lanes like nothing. You could ride this bike almost like a sport bike. You just have the wind hitting you, and you're not as aerodynamic and down under a windscreen. I am thinking about getting the windscreen for it. I think it would be a nice addition, you know, on the highway, and when you have turbulent wind, to be able to tuck behind. Carbon wheels may be something I do here down the road. I definitely like the way they look. Obviously, this is going to be my everyday bike, and it doesn't need them, but would it look cool? Yes. That, or I'm going to put the Marchesini on it. Marchesini, however you say it. The brakes on this thing are just, it has Brembo brakes factory with Nissan master cylinders, and it's got brakes like an H2 has brakes. It's amazing. Definitely going to do a mod on the mirrors as well, because those got to go. Get H2 perch caps so that the mirror mounts are gone. Definitely curious to go ride with a couple of my buddies that have Super Dukes and you know, or a Hyper Motard, or run like a Duval. You know, that's in this class, the Ducati Duval. Now this front gauges and this, I don't know what you would call this, a front windjammer, that moves with the handlebars. The whole rest of the front of the bike is stationary. So the headlights stay straight as you turn, which is, I guess you could say it's like a road glide, Harley road glide. I definitely had noticed, you know, I went out last night and I saw a guy with a zH2 and or not a zH2, I'm sorry, I'm not thinking straight, a Z1000. This zH2 front end is much, I don't know what you would call broader, I would say tough. It has like a bigger front end on it for sure. It's definitely wider, 100%. I honestly feel like I could take this thing to a track day and not do terrible with it. I mean, obviously I'm not going to be competing with people on super sport bikes, but I think it would handle and do just fine around a road course. We'll set the cruise here for you guys real quick. Let you check that out. It'll resume. You can slow down, just like a car. I'm definitely a fan of this, of the Kawasaki cruise control. The Speed up here with the button. You can see it's nice and safe. It's not going to make you speed up too uncontrollably to where you would have an accident or, you know, run into the back of another car. Or the coast is nice. It's smooth. You know, and if you panicked and had a brake, it turns it off. See, now it's off. It's really a nice system. I'm impressed for sure with the cruise control. Now, I have ridden a 1290 Super Duke. Now, obviously, that's a little more leaned over. So is a Truno, a Aprilia Truno. That's a little more leaned over. You're a little more sport bikey still on that style naked bike. I feel like this is more upright, comfortable. You know, if you couldn't handle riding on a Ninja H2 or a ZX10, this would be a definite 100% better bike to go for in terms of comfortability. If you had a back that was messed up, or this is definitely, I mean, it has performance like a ZX10 for sure, and you're sitting up on it. So like I said before, I think once we're able to crack the ECUs on these and flash them and really de-restrict them and tune them, they're gonna give a ZX10 a run for its money for sure. Especially with a windshield on it. If you're able to tuck behind a windshield, oh man. Now I will be doing a baseline dyno test. I just haven't done it because I don't have a diagnostic cable to plug into the bike, because it's so new to clear the codes when it throws the codes on the dyno for the front wheel not spinning and the rear wheel being on the roller. So I just want to wait till I can actually clear the codes to set the lights off and all that. Then we can compare it, you know, with a run from an H2 or whatever, ZX10. Comparison to this bike. I mean, it just wheelies on. You rolling, I'm rolling in half throttle. It's wheeling first, second gear, no problem. Like it's nothing. If this bike was lowered 1.5 inches to 2 inches and strapped, it would be an animal, dude. An animal. Killer. Killer. You'd be pulling up unsuspecting on people, not knowing what you're on, and just gap their life out. going under the old legendary monoline train, the freight train that always comes around every other hour. It is like over a mile long every time. I will say they didn't get the idle very good on this thing. Stock. It's definitely lean. I mean, when it like surges sometimes when I come down to idle from a D-cell. I can definitely tell that it needs tuning. 100%. Shit's so cool. I do hope that once the flash is available, we will be able to turn the traction control off, because I really think that's going to limit people from wanting the bike, because if you're a person that likes to ride wheelies, it definitely limits you from riding long wheelies on the bike, you know, and staying up. Maybe that's because they don't want you wheeling this thing, because, I mean, let's face it, these H2s, they starve from a for oil. I mean, it's just a known fact. I've seen guys starve them drag racing them with stock pans. I starved my own with a flat pan on it. So, I mean, they're known to starve and not pick oil up well. In a wheelie, when you're drag racing them and launching them hard and pulling a lot of G-force, you know, from a dead stop, when you brake hard with it, that type of stuff, the oil likes to have windage, you could say, which is, windage is another term for it sloshes in the oil pan due to high G-force situations. I am curious to crack the trans open on this thing. It definitely has a better transmission than the Ninja H2. It's way easier to get into neutral, I can tell you that. Night and day, 100%. I haven't gone from first to second to trying to get into neutral one time with this thing yet. Even when it was brand new and the trans had no miles on it, it was just straight to neutral, no problem. That Ninja H2, the older one, you know, I'll say a 15 to 17, they are so hard to find neutral on. It's like not even there. Not only that, this bike is much more manageable holding a speed, a constant speed, you know, 44, 40, 35. That H2, you get to 35 and then you try and hold throttle and manage, and you look down and you're going 45. So you're constantly like going back and forth trying to manage speed with the H2, because it's just a bike that doesn't like to go 35, 40 miles an hour around town. It was never designed to do that. It was never meant to do that. It doesn't like to do that. They definitely have it figured out with this bike. Get myself a little dinner here.